What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I'm going to go over my top 5 horror movies of all time. Now, I really want to make this clear right from the beginning. I do not watch, and you'll notice when I say this list, you'll notice that I do not watch a lot of horror movies, and I don't, okay? So I do want to make it clear to not take this list too seriously. Don't hold me to, I know it's my list, but don't hold me too much accountable for this. I do definitely want to hear your guys' list in the comments below. I'm not a big horror movie guy. I'm much more a horror game guy. We already did a video actually on our top 5 horror games. I actually did it with Degenerate Jay if you guys want to check that out. Also, if you guys like this, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Bell icon turn on and join our Discord server. We actually have like a Halloween category there where everybody's talking about all things Halloween, but also obviously plenty of other things to talk about there as well. All right, so let's jump in number 5 to number 1. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about any of these. Maybe number 1 I will, but again, really want to drive it home. I don't watch a lot of horror movies, but you guys asked me to do this a couple different times, so I'm going to give it to you. Number 5, It. I feel, and so that's the movie, It. I really do feel like this is a very, very good horror movie. It 2 is also, It 2 is very, I know, disappointing to a lot of people. I thought It 2 actually was pretty solid for the most part, even though it was kind of predictable, and even though, when they did their whole, like, okay, we're each going to go off into our own path, and we'll each experience Pennywise in their own way, and then we're going to come back, and then the ending fight, basically killing him with insults was quite the message to send to people. But, the first It didn't do any of those things. The first It, I think, was very clever. It was very scary. I think having Pennywise in the movie, which he was in, the first one, quite a bit more than the second one, I think that really, really helped. All the kids obviously did such an amazing, none of the stuff is new, right? Everybody did, I think, such an amazing job. I don't know if expectations were really all that high going into the first It, but it definitely was very, very good. Okay, so that is my number 5. Number 4, I'm going off the board for this one to It Follows. Now, a lot of people may not even know what this, I feel like if you're watching a horror list, though, you may, but I think in general, It Follows was a much, much smaller horror movie. So let me kind of break it down just a little bit. We won't go into spoilers, and we also won't say certain words for the sake of YouTube. This is a movie where doing a certain thing with another person basically transmits, instead of like a disease if you do it the wrong way or something like that, it transmits a person or some entity that doesn't stop following you. That's why it's called It Follows, okay? And it doesn't stop following you. It will literally do whatever it takes. It walks in a pretty consistent motion, so it doesn't like run at you, doesn't like crawl, but it does walk non-stop, okay? So if you're sleeping, it's still going to come at you. And this is, I guess, for people that haven't seen it. I think that's really, really clever, again, without saying too much because of YouTube. I mean, that's a really clever, I think, spin on doing that, but also just the idea that there is going to be this being, and it can, by the way, it can transform into all this different stuff. So it could, like, maybe look like your grandmother, and it could be walking towards you, but obviously it's not. And then if it gets to you, you're done for, unless you transfer it to somebody else. And that's basically the plot of this movie. I think it's really clever. I think it's really fun in the way that, like, it's very different. That's something that I've never seen before in my life, but also pretty darn creepy. I don't have a Nightmare on Elm Street movie on my ranking, but with that being said, I am into more clever / fun movies. I love Wes Craven. I love a lot of his stuff anyway. So, Nightmare on Elm, I keep wanting to call it Friday the 13th, but Nightmare on Elm Street, definitely, with Freddy, the idea of being like in a dream and him terrorizing you in a dream is something very clever to me. And I think, It Follows is something equally as clever, and that's why it is here. Number 3, Halloween, the original Halloween. So, this movie is a movie that I actually didn't watch for I watched this movie, I would say, probably 7-ish years ago was like the first time I've ever seen it. And you know what? It is phenomenal. It really is. Has it aged all that well? I think a lot of parts of it have aged well. I don't think everything has aged well. Obviously, in the age of newer movies and I guess just kind of up-resing older stuff, you do lose some of that general like the feel of it that was back there in 1978. But I mainly put this here just because of what what it did for the horror genre, what it kind of did for the slasher film genre. I mean, this is a living legend, right? Michael Myers is a living legend. Then the movie is, I would say, very, very good. Is it the same as a lot of movies that are out now? No, I think it's a lot slower. It's very different in how a lot of things are done, but I think it's really, really well executed. And honestly, again, I am a fan of like things influencing other things and like starting a trend or being like the leader in their craft, you know what I mean? Something like that. Again, in games and music and stuff like that. So movies, Halloween, I mean, when you think about the movie genre, and I mean, I guess you could think like Alien and stuff, which Aliens are very good movies, and I do like, especially the first one. Again, not on my list though, but you know, like again, those kind of movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Alien, these are all movies that in some way kickstarted something, and we're actually going to get there even with number one. Number two is where I'm going to lose a lot of people, and I'm terribly sorry. This is why I said don't take this list too seriously, and definitely don't hold me accountable for my own list. And by the way, that is sarcasm. Is Happy Death Day. I feel like I shouldn't even explain this one because it's just going to get me more in trouble. No, I really love this movie. I guess, okay, like saying that Nightmare on Elm Street and Alien and, you know, you think of a horror movie that I can't even think actually of all that many, okay? But think of like your favorite ones and then say, how in God's name did Alex put, you know, Happy Death Day above it? And you can leave all of that in the comments. In fact, it would actually help the engagement rate of the video, so go ahead and do it. This movie, though, is very clever. And again, and you'll see that with number one as well. I'm into clever stuff. I'm into movies that are kind of meta. I'm into movies that take themselves seriously to a point, but are also, again, but very smart. And Groundhog Day versus, you know, like any of that kind of stuff. I mean, those movies are very clever and very intelligent. And Happy Death Day, I mean, I think Jessica Rothe did a really, really good job as like the lead actress. She was really, really good as Tree in that movie. And just the basic idea. I mean, is it as revolutionary as other slasher movies? No, but it was a really fun take on a slasher a genre, the horror genre, you know, the slasher kind of medium in that, and it did it very, very well. Like I could follow it the whole time. It had intrigue. It had characters that were kind of, and not all of them were likable. Not all of them were like all that fantastic, but it had, you know, it definitely had its standouts, and it kept you going, kept you guessing. It kept the entertainment value very high, whether it was jokes, whether it was references, whether it was, again, being kind of meta of itself, all those kind of things, and then just the idea that, you know, she keeps living and dying every single day. I mean, I think that's a very clever thing. And yeah, you know, I probably, if my channel was bigger and this video did bigger, I'm sure I would get the most hate in the world. I think a lot of people would come after me, and that would kind of be one of the things that I'm kind of known for, that I said Happy Death Day is my second favorite. But in reality, again, keeping in mind, I don't watch a lot of horror movies at all, and this one is just something that stands out and something that I'm still passionate about even right now. Like, I actually like the second movie. I'm hoping there'll eventually be a third movie, and the rumor is there will be. It's just kind of personal to me. And number one, this one I feel like, you know, has a chance that could resonate with people. Scream. And this is, by the way, no surprise if you know who I am or have followed me on Twitter or any of that stuff. I'm a massive, massive Scream, or even watched these videos, right? Because I've covered the newest Scream movie. Scream is so good. So good. 2 and 3, you know, I don't hate any of them. Obviously, 3 did a lot of things not the greatest in the world. I know some people even would say, like, Scream 2 is often regarded as, like, the best horror sequel, that it's, like, a horror sequel that, if anything, it's pretty on par with 1, maybe a little bit lower, but it's not, like, a dramatic drop-off like you have with pretty much every other horror film out there. And I would agree with that. I think there's just no touching Scream 1, though. I think it's just so special what that movie did. And again, for the couple reasons of what it did for the slasher genre back then in 96, okay? And so I guess the long-standing effects it had, but also just the fact that, I mean, the movie is so good. Like, Neve Campbell as Sydney is just phenomenal, and she's been one of my favorite characters in anything, especially movies, for, you know, since I first saw, you know, the original Scream. I mean, what can you really say that hasn't been said? Very smart, very clever, very tropey, right? But also very aware of itself. And again, much like Happy Death Day, in those kind of movies, I love that. I love movies that are pretty aware of themselves. And Wes Craven, I really, you know, it sucks that we don't have him anymore, you know, on this planet, but he was such a visionary, okay? And I think Scream just did such an amazing, amazing job. I think Scream is miles better than any Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. I think Scream 1 is the best thing he did. I think Ghostface and that horror thing is the best horror thing he did, okay? I really do believe that. So I could talk about Scream for like 10 years. I will be talking about Scream a lot more as the next year and a half goes on until we get the next Scream movie. So that is my list. Let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think of it? Be kind. Please be kind. And let me know what your own lists are in the comments below. Again, if you guys like this video, even if you thought it was laughingly terrible, make sure you leave it a like. Make sure you guys are subscribed, have the bell icon turned on. And like I said, if you guys haven't joined our Discord server, please do. Link for it in the description below, along with my other stuff, my Twitter and my second channel, okay? Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.